Hello everyone. Today we are going to actually hack into the metasploitable machine using some publicly available exploits. And for finding these, we are going to go to our best friend Google, then see what's exploit.db, use their tool search exploit, and then take a look at the Metasploit framework. So I've got Kali Linux and Metasploitable running. Both are connected to the same NAT network, and I've taken a snapshot for Kali Linux. I'm logged in to both of these machines. So I'm just going to open up the terminal and we are going to be continuing from where we left in the last video. So if you remember in the last video, we scanned the target machine with nmap and the results we stored in a file called nmap.scan which we can use with the less command. So as we discussed, we have port 21 FTP, port 22 SSH, and we've got a lot of ports open. And today we are going to be looking at how we can find some publicly available exploits for outdated services. So as you can see, we are going to exploit this service first, Apache. But how do we know if there's an available exploit for this? So we know that the service is Apache, which is a web server. We can connect to this port over HTTP. We even know the version, and this looks really old, 2.2.8. So we are going to go to our best friend Google and we are just going to wait for Mozilla to load. So we are going to google.com and we are going to search for Apache recent version. So it's saying that it's at least 2.4.46 and this is a bit old. So there might be some security vulnerabilities in this version of Apache. So let's search for Apache HTTP server, or let's just try Apache HTTP 2.2.8 and type in exploit. So this is going to take us to the website of CVE details. So what is a CVE? A CVE stands for Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures. So these are the official records of security vulnerabilities found in certain services or certain binaries. So this we have all the CVEs for Apache, but right now we are only interested in finding an exploit for this, a script that we can run by providing it the IP address and a port. So this is going, the second link looks promising, 2.2.34, which is okay, so less than 2.2.34, which is the case over here. So this looks like a Python script which can help us to hack this. So this has taken us to the exploit.db website. So what is exploit.db? Exploit.db is a website maintained by Offensive Security, the same organization which maintains Kali Linux. So you should be you should have the exploit.db bookmark if you are using the browser within Kali Linux, and you can also find the exploit.db GitHub page with this Google search. So we have a full Git repository for this exploit DB, and we have this repository cloned on our Kali Linux machine. So I suggest that before running these commands, we just do a sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. But I've already done this. This will upgrade all the packages on our system. So all the available exploits, including this Apache one, are already available on our system. We can access them using this tool called searchsploit. You can see that this is in their Git repository. So what this tool does is that it searches for these exploits, the details that we provided. So we search for Apache 2.2.8 exploit on Google. Instead of that, we can use searchsploit to search for this exploit on our local machine. So let's do that. To use that tool, we can just type in searchsploit and it will give us the help for that. So we've got a lot of options and we've got examples. So we can search for such searchsploit AFD Windows Local. So this is searching for this type of exploit. So what we need is exploit for Apache. So searchsploit Apache 2.2. Okay, we might because we had a range over here as you can see 2.2.34 less than all of that. So we can just type in a full version or maybe not. So it found a lot of things. We've got a lot of things and this is the same exploit that we saw over here. So this was Apache 2.2.34 less than that and less than 2.4.27. The same options memory leak exploits on a local device and this is a Python script. And we have this exploit also which is less than 5.3.12 and 5.4.12 which is in the form of a C code which we can compile to run or a Python script. So we are going to first try to use both of these and then we are going to try this one because this is focused on PHP and this is on some other memory leak. So we are going to try both of them. So to use these, we are going to take a look at some of these terms. These are search terms for search exploit. I suggest that you take a look through them, but we are going to focus on these one. So non-searching ones. So we have dash M, which stands for mirror, which will just copy the exploit to our current location, and then we have dash X, which stands for examine, which will open the exploit so that we can view it. So we are going to copy. First, we are going to take a look at the Python script because I'm more familiar with Python. So we are going to copy this path that searchsploit provided to us with Control Shift C. Then we are going to type in searchsploit dash X for examine and just type in that path. And this opened up. So, so we've got some comments which says that it was supposed to be named this, but it's named something else. And it looks like a buffer overflow or something. So let's try to run this. First copy it to our current. So it says a Python script with CRLF line terminators, which might be a problem. So we have just mirrored it to our current directory. Let's make a dir called exploits and move this file to the exploits folder. Okay, so we are now going to run the file command on this Python script. It's going to give us what output regarding what type of file it is. That is a Python script, ASCII text executable, and we've got CRLF line terminators. Now, if you don't know, what Linux does is that whenever we type in a new line, it is stored as a line feed character, which is a new line, which you might know as \n. And what Windows does is that when we hit enter or a new line character on Windows, it stores it as a carriage return line feed character, which is \r\n. So we might need to convert this to Linux because sometimes we get problems like this. It will say no such file or directory python \r. So in these cases we might have to convert it, and for converting we can use a program called DOS to Unix and just the name of the file. So it will convert that program. As you can see, with CRLF line terminators that has vanished, and we can now just execute it, and it has given us the options and it's written in a funny way. So dash H is for test single host for vulnerability, dash P, which is the port, default port is 80, and dash C, with which we can send commands to host. And this is written in a really funny way. So let's try to run this with dash H for host. Our host is 10.0.2.6. I hope it's still that IP address. Let's confirm with ifconfig on metasploitable. It's still 10.0.2.6 and that is the host, and we saw test single host for one. Okay, so let's try that. Error missing dash s dash e or dash x. So dash x. So we are going to try uh, dash s is for test single host for vulnerability, not h. Dash h is for host. So dash s. So it seems that it is vulnerable. So let's try instead of dash s, let's do dash c. Who am I? Oh, we got output. We got some output. Where's that? Where's that? So we got www data, which is a user on many Linux systems, which is required for running Apache. So we think we have code execution over here. Let's try some other command. Let's try the id command and send this to head, which will just show us the top 10 lines. Okay, so it is not terminating on its own. We have to hit Ctrl C to kill the Python script. So let's not pipe it to head and let's scroll to the top. So we got the command executed. So we have got command execution. Let's try ls. Can it list the directory contents? So yes, we have got php, php5. These are the directories. These might be the directories. Let's do pwd. Okay, so it printed the current working directory, which for that is user lib cgi bin. That's fantastic. We have got code execution on that target system. That is remote code execution. So we've got RCE, a remote command execution. So can we get a reverse shell? Can we get a terminal like that, like this one on the target machine? Now there are two types of terminals when you are hacking something. You might hear people referring to the reverse terminal or reverse shell and a bind terminal or a bind shell. So what is the difference between them? So let's say that you are connecting to Google. So when you connect to Google, Google is already there listening for connections and we go and connect to them. That when similarly on the target system, if you set up a server which whenever you connect to it spawns a shell. So let's assume that I connect to that IP 10.0.2.6 and as soon as I connect to it, it tells me, okay, I am ready, please supply me a command. That is a bind shell. So the target is listening, we open a port on the target, we connect to that port on the target machine and then we run commands. That is a bind shell. Another type of shell we have is a reverse shell, where we set up a listener. So we are listening for connections, and then on the target we run a command saying that okay, this is my IP address. Please connect back to me. I will like to run some commands on your target, and that is what the target will do. It will see okay, so this we have a request to connect to this IP address, and that IP address will send us commands, and we have to execute them on our system. So that is called a reverse shell, where we set up a listener, some other IP address or some other device connects to that listener, and we are able to run commands. Okay, so we are going to use a reverse shell cheat sheet from Pen Test Monkey. Okay, which is a site. So this will provide us with some commands which we can run to get back a reverse shell. Now this site is blocked many times because it says that it is harmful, but there is nothing harmful that I have seen on this website yet. So we've got some commands which we when run will get back a reverse shell. So we will be able to execute commands on that target system. So we are going to use a tool called netcat. Okay, nc we can do dash dash help. Okay, or dash help. Okay, so these are all the options for netcat. What netcat is a simple program. Well, let's do manc. Netcat is a simple Linux program which reads and writes data across network connections using TCP or UDP protocol. It's just like a Python program where we have sockets, we can send or receive data, but that's already built for us and it's a reliable program. So we can use this to connect to anywhere or any IP address on any port which is listening, or we can set up listeners ourselves. To connect to an IP address, we can do NC, which is for netcat. The binary is named NC, then the IP address and then the port. Simple, we can connect via this method. Or to listen, we can do nc-l for listen, -p for port, which port we want to listen on. It's really simple and easy to use. We do not have to write our own Python scripts to listen. We already have a program. So we want to listen. Let's listen on port 1234. So we are currently in listen mode, but we do not know because netcat does not print anything. So let's just put a -v. So it says listening on all interfaces on any, that means from any interface we can connect, which we want that metasploitable machine should connect to us. So let's assume that netcat is installed on that system, because netcat is mostly installed on all Linux systems because they are mostly shipped with netcat. Now many times netcat has a -e options. Okay, so looks like we have a -e option. Where is that? Okay, so this is a dangerous program, okay, which is rarely present on production systems. What -e does is that it makes easy for attackers or any other person to exploit this. So what it will do is that if we supply -e bin/sh, what that will do is that as soon as someone connects to it, it will pipe bin/sh, that is the bash shell or the normal sh shell, to that port the connection. So we will be able to execute commands. But -e is normally not present. So what we are going to do is first try to run these commands on our own system on Kali Linux and see if we get a reverse shell. So we are going to copy this second command for netcat. We are going to copy this, open a new terminal, paste this in and change our IP address. I'm going to open another terminal, do sudo ifconfig password, and our IP address is 10.0.2.5. It might be different for you. So 10.0.2.5 port 1234 and hit enter. And we got connection back. Now this is from our own Kali machine by running this command, but we have code execution on that target also. So if we run this command on that target, it might be possible that we also get a reverse shell. Now we can run commands on this system and we can just do exit and kill this terminal. So looks like we can get back a shell using this command. So let's just copy this, Control Shift C, go back, and we had yeah. So we had this using this command. We had code execution on that target. Hit Control Shift V, which is for paste, and on another terminal we are going to listen using that same command and say -l for listen, -p for port 1234, -v for verbose mode, hit enter, and we are listening, and now we are going to run this command and we got back a reverse shell. So now we are on that target system. So print working directory user lib cgi bin. Now I don't think I have that directory and I can prove that I am not on that. I don't think I have cgi bin directory. Oh, I still have. So that's something. So we are in the user lib cgi bin directory. These are the folders and we are on that target system. So this, I'm not running commands locally on my system. We are connected to 10.0.2.6. 10.0.2.6. We are running commands on this system. Let's try go back to Kali Linux and run ifconfig. Command not found because only sudo can run this. Or privileged users can run this. We do not have privileges. We do not have that much privileges that we can run certain commands. But still, we have got code execution. Okay, so we can make this shell even better because we do not have, we cannot use the commands that we have already used using the up and down arrow keys, nor we have tab auto completion, but we can still improve this shell. How? There are few ways which we can do that. First, we are going to see if Python is installed, Python dash dash version, and we have Python installed. Now, this is a very common trick that if you see somebody get a reverse shell back, you will most likely see them run this command. You can run this with Python or Python 3, both versions. So Python dash C for command. So everything in this double quote will be command. Python dash C import pty. Pty is a module in Python. I recommend you go and look at the docs. Pty.spawn slash min slash bash because we want to run a bash shell. Hit enter and we've got a better shell. So we got this bash shell which is instantly upgraded. So we got username at the rate hostname which is metasploitable and colon user directory. We can do host name to prove we are on that machine. Now what we are going to do is type in Control Z. This will background this session. Now we are going to type in stty dash raw echo and fg. So we are going to type in stty-raw echo and then fg. It might look that I have typed this again, but I have not. Then we are going to type in reset. What happened? Reset terminal type xterm. Okay, and then we are going to do export term equal to xterm. Simple. Now we will be able to run commands such as clear. So we will be able to run commands like clear and many others. And we will even be able to see the errors because many times we are not even able to see the errors if a command is not found or something. So we have code execution, we got a reverse shellback, we are able to run commands on the target system, and we have even upgraded our shell fully. Not fully, but even partially. So I'm just going to kill this session. And now let's see if we can use uh, the C program which we saw earlier. Let's see if we can try to use that one because we are right now only focusing on how we can use these tools to find publicly available exploits. So we use this one. We are going to try this one and this one quickly. So I'm going to copy this path and then search exploit dash m, small m for mirror, control V. I'm going to see ls and we've got 29290.c. So it also has CRLF line terminators, but I don't think that will be a problem. So let's compile this code. If you don't know C code is compiled, we can compile it with using GCC dash O for output. Let's name this exploit uh, or C exploit, and the file is 29290.c. Okay, so this requires some other libraries also. So I'm not going to be debugging this right now because I just thought that we might be able to run that. So we had Apache 2.2.8. So we were going to run this Python script because that's the problem sometimes with C programs. You might need some header files which are missing. So search exploit dash m. So it's copied, which one is this? 4275. So 4275.py. We are going to run the file command. Now this has CRLF line terminators. So we are going to need to convert this one DOS to Unix 42745.py and let's run this 42475. So no arguments required. Let's try dash h. Okay, so this is for help, and let's see. So positional host to check the host name we want to test again, and this checks for the options bleed vulnerability, and we have the CVE number. So dash n number of tests, dash a and dash u. So we are going to pass it the host name. Host name is 10.0.2.6. What is this going to do? I do not know. I have not checked it yet. So options, let's look up this options blade vulnerability, and let's see what this has done. Uh, Nothing. I do not know what this has done. So we've got some really good blog posts on many of these vulnerabilities. So what you need to know. So this is going to explain everything. So that was how we can use search exploit to find all publicly available exploits. We saw how we got code execution on that target system using a Python script, this one. And I believe that we could have gotten code execution using this C code also if we download the necessary header files. So let's go let's look at some other services that we can exploit. So we started with Apache because it seemed too old, 2.2.28. Now let's go back and try FTP. We started with Apache because web servers are most common. But let's start with the VSFTPD 2.3.4. So what is FTP? FTP is a file transfer protocol with which we can transfer files. So this is a file server, and Nmap says that anonymous login is allowed. So what this means is that for logging in with FTP, we mostly require a username and password, if not always. So the username and password in anonymous login is always anonymous, this one. So anonymous FTP login allowed means that we can log in with username and password as anonymous. So let's try that. And we just keep in mind that this is the service running. So to connect over FTP, we just need to use the command FTP 10.0.2.6. By default, it will try to connect to this 20 port 21. But if the FTP server was running at some other port, the next input would be the port number. But it's running at port 21, so we'll just leave it at default. So it's asking us for the name, which is the username. We are going to type in anonymous, and password is same anonymous. Login successful, and remote system type is Unix, and using binary mode to transfer files. So we can use ls, but there is nothing on this file server right now. We can use help to view all these commands, and we can use ls to view files, pwd to work the to see the current working directory, cd to change directories. But for now we have nothing on that file server that it is serving, so we cannot download or any use any file. We can download files with get, as we can see on this help menu. So we've got put, which we can use to upload files to that server, and we will have get somewhere over here. There you go. So with get we can download files which are over there. So we can you type in exit or buy to exit, and let's just take a look at the version once again. So the version is VSFTPD 2.3.4. So let's again go to search exploit and type in the version, and we've got backdoor command execution. But what is that meta after that? So it stands for metasploit. Now metasploit is a framework which contains some exploits which we can use easily. So the metasploit project, it has security vulnerabilities, uh, it serves security vulnerabilities and aids in penetration testing. So this is the metasploit framework site. and we have it installed already on our system. So I'm going to increase the font and I'm going to type in MSF console. Now this might take a bit to run, so I'm going to just pause the video and wait for it to load, and it takes a lot of time, especially if starting for the first time. Okay, so now we've got a prompt for the Metasploit console. Now Metasploit has some commands of its own. We can use search to search for exploits. Then, so let's just search for vsftpd 2.3.4 and we've got this exploit. So we can use this exploit with the use command. We can type in just use 0 since there is only one search result, and we can type in the number of that search result, use 0, or we can just copy that name, control C or control shift C and control shift V. So it is defaulting to CMD Unix Interact. We do not have to worry about that. And let's just type in options. So this will show us all the required options that we might need to configure, and we can also use info, which gives us some information about that exploit. So we've got name, which is backdoor command execution, platform Unix, privileged, yes, so this might mean that we, instead of being the www data user, might be some other privileged user, even might be root. So the target check is automatic. We cannot check if that uh, host is vulnerable, and basic options required is our host, which is the remote host or the target host. So this will be IP address and our port, which is 21, the port at which FTP is listening at. And then we've got description, that it exploits a malicious backdoor that was added to this archive. So these are some technical details that we will not jump to right now, but as we learn more about them, we will see what is a backdoor and things. But for now, we can just configure the R host and maybe get a reverse shell back. So we are going to type in set R hosts. We can just type in RH and hit a tab. So 10.0.2.6, the set command is used to set variables to value. So it will set R hosts to this value. It will say that our host is now this. We can type in options again. So I'm just going to clear the screen. And now to execute this, we can either type in run, or if you want to feel cool, we can type in exploit. Okay, so this completed, but no session was created. So this session, this exploit is a bit finicky, if I might say, and it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. And so it's saying that UID is root and the listener is already open, found shell and command shell session 1 open, but we are not getting any prompt. Let's try to running command, and we are the root user on that target system. But we do not have a nice prompt, but we are able to run commands. And how can I say that I'm on that target? Let's try host name, metasploitable. What's this? Simple command, just I had to run exploit, give it the IP address, and we are root on that user. This is how dangerous outdated services can be. I can do anything to that uh, file, to that device. I can devastate it completely. I can destroy it. But we are the good guys. We are not going to do anything like that. So we are just going to run some basic commands. ls who am I root. So let's do that same trick, python dash c, because we know Python is installed. We already got a reverse shell. So I'm going to skip the python dash dash version check. So python dash c, import pty.spawn. And if you are wondering what pty is, you can just go to Google. So just go to Google python pty sudo terminal utilities, and if as soon as you search pty, the second link is of how you can upgrade your netcat shell to something better. So this is the first link is of docs.python.org, where you've got all the explanation of that, and we are using this function. And the second link over there is how you can make your shell interactive. So you may obtain a shell without having TTY, and you can use this and many other things. So it's got commands for all Lua, Ruby, Perl, which are other programming languages. So we are going to use Python, and we got a bash shell, which is really awesome. We can use the clear command also. So that's really awesome. We can run commands as root user on that system. But how do you believe that I am running on this system? So the video is about to end, so let's do something cool. Let's from our Kali Linux session power off that metasploitable machine. So this will kill the session because it's not permanent. But let's do something awesome. So we are going to type in power off. Now power off requires sudo privileges. That means we need to type in sudo before power off. But we are already root. We have all the privileges. We are God on that system. So we can just type in power off and woohoo, it's going off. It's switching off, stopping all these services, and that was it. Proof that we were on that metasploitable machine. The system is going down for power off now. So that was how we can. So as you saw, metasploitable 2 powered off. So that was how devastating these outdated services can be, how easy it might be for anyone to exploit these, and that's why we should regularly update all these services and all security updates that we receive on our devices because they are for our benefit. So today we saw how we can use our best friend Google to look for the most recent versions of services and determine if a service might be vulnerable to some kind of publicly available exploit. Then we met our friends exploit DB and their tool searchploit. Then another friend metasploitable console, and to exit we can just type in exit. So that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.